Everybody, what is going on? The Catch fam. I hope you guys are doing great. Hope everyone has had a fantastic Tuesday. Let's get ready for week 6 of the season, ladies and gentlemen. We are literally 5 weeks down. 5 weeks down. We're 11 weeks away from the championship game in fantasy football. Crazy. Or maybe we're technically 12. We got to get through this week. I don't know. Point being, we're over a month down of the 2024 fantasy football season already. We got a lot to get through tonight. We got some updates. We got injuries. We got the Jets firing Robert Saleh. So, you know what we need to do. Fantasy Q&A, anything that you guys need, let's get into it. Starts, sits, trades, the waiver wire. Whatever you guys need. For week 6 of the season, we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk some fantasy football tonight. All right, so let me get set up here, guys. Start sits at wide receiver and running back are both live on the channel. Every player, every matchup. So make sure you guys check those out for the week. One or two things that kind of have asterisks next to them with, Derek Carr's injury. The brisket has been benched out there in New England. Drake May is going to get the start, but 2 solid videos out for you guys. And quarterbacks, tight ends, start sits will be out tomorrow morning. And our kicker video will be a little bit different this week, but kickers for week 6 will drop tomorrow. So then we'll just fly through the rest of the content for the week. And we'll keep rolling here, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you guys for a great first 5 weeks of the season. It's been another great start to week 6. So thank you for all the support, everything that you guys are doing here for the community. So, all right, let's hop into some news. And then we'll start rolling through your guys' fantasy questions. All right, so we got, some word that Spencer Rattler may be the starting quarterback for the Saints in absence of Derek Carr. So I think right now, whether it's Jake Nainer, is that his name? Whether it's whatever quarterback starts for the Saints, I don't really feel like it's going to give me confidence right now and starting Olave or Shaheed. We're gonna have to wait and see. Like I think in this type of situation, Chris Olave will benefit more. Shaheed needs like that kind of like deep ball for the most part. I know he had the game 2 weeks ago where we saw a little bit more like contested volume for him, and that worked out. But overall, I think Shaheed needs what we saw on Monday Night Football, and there's definitely a possibility that he still gets that, right? The 11 targets against Atlanta and 8 receptions was a different style of game for Shaheed in week 12. But now week 5, he did have 9 targets, but 4 receptions, 86 receiving yards, and the big touchdown. Really outside of week 4 and the dud in week 3, the goose egg, like every game for Shaheed includes like that deep ball, big play, touchdown. So I am a little bit worried about Shaheed, and Shaheed is the wide receiver 12 right now in fantasy football. So I am worried about Shaheed at the moment, but I'm not going to panic. Like there's no reason to drop Shaheed, but we might not be starting him this week, although it's not particularly a bad matchup against the Bucs. So listen, I'm not panicking on Shaheed, not going to do anything drastic, but I'm more worried about him. I feel like a player like Chris Olave, who can kind of act as that security blanket, will benefit in this situation. And I think Alvin Kamara benefits in large as well. Kamara sitting as your RB2 right now in fantasy. I think he's going to continue to benefit, get touches, all of that stuff. So we'll see. It's an oblique injury for Carr. We'll see how much time he misses. The other guy who probably benefits in large from this situation, who probably needs to be a player we need to consider if he's out there on the waiver, is going to be Taysom Hill. You guys know I'm very shaky on the Taysom Hill experience, but I think this is a good situation for Taysom Hill, who could even get some snaps at quarterback, but will probably be in that whatever the heck they call Taysom Hill role, Swiss Army knife role. But yeah, this is probably good for Taysom Hill for those of you guys who are going to start back on the Taysom Hill train. Drake May is going to be the starter against the Texans for the Patriots. So, I mean, I think we all kind of knew at some point this was coming. And sorry, maybe this is good. Maybe this is good for Jalen Polk or Demario Douglas or Hunter Henry, whoever. I'm not, you can pick up guys like Spencer Rattler or Drake May in a super flex format, a deep super flex format. But like, are we really going to go out and start these guys? And the answer is no. And then like, what does this mean for the wide receivers? We'll find out. I'm not going to say anything crazy. Like, do I think this is, a fantastic for like, are the Patriots wide receivers going to be good now? No, this offensive line is so bad, but at least it gives them some hope. Maybe there's a spark here. Maybe it's better than the brisket. We'll find out. Aaron Jones is considered week to week with that hip injury that he suffered in the London game against the Jets. So obviously the Vikings are on bye this week, but I do think a lot of people are going to kind of aggressively chase Ty Chandler on the waiver wire, which I'm fine with. I do think Ty Chandler is a good pickup. It is a tough matchup in week 7 against the Lions. And then we're going to have to look at just how long does this injury, keep Aaron Jones out. But I will say that Ty Chandler is a very good player to target because the next couple matchups after week 7 are very good. We're at the Rams for the Vikings, Colts at home at Jacksonville. I mean, that is a fantastic stretch before they're at Tennessee. Like, if Ty Chandler plays in 2 out of 4 of those games, he becomes a very valuable player to kind of plug and play. He's sitting at 36% rostered. So talked about Chandler in the waiver wire video, but, now that we have a for sure report as of 5 hours ago that Aaron Jones is considered week to week, this could be very good news for those of you who maybe you've held on to Ty Chandler. He is 36% rostered, or have plans to go and pick him up. Just keep in mind, like, we can't play him this week, obviously, because, well, he's not going to be playing. He's on bye week. The last thing I want to mention, I guess I'll go ahead and mention Nico Collins has been designated as day-to-day as well. This could be good for Tank Dell, of course. I think Diggs is fine either way, but we'll see what happens with Nico Collins. Definitely a bummer. But the other thing I do want to mention in terms of, things we haven't talked about, fresh week, Juju Smith-Schuster, I don't want to chase points, but the Chiefs just have this way of making anybody and everybody except for Sky Moore relevant. And Juju Smith-Schuster looked like an absolute dog on Monday Night Football. And the Saints defense is not bad. Like, maybe they were just thinking like, we don't need to worry about Juju, but this was like sustained throughout the game. And it wasn't just like there was like a broken coverage play, but it wasn't just the broken coverage play. Like, Juju was like catching contested balls and stuff. So he is 7% rostered, and the Chiefs are on bye this week, but he's got to be a priority ad. Like, we saw Xavier Worthy involved. We saw more volume to Travis Kelce. We saw Kareem Hunt have a good game. We even saw McCole Hardman do some things. And still, Juju Smith-Schuster had a very solid outing with 8 targets, 7 receptions for 130 receiving yards, and a whopping 20 fantasy points. So Juju is going to be a top priority ad. I have to, film the waiver wire videos on Sunday nights to get them out for you guys. And obviously there's no way of putting Juju in there. So I do want to mention, if Juju's out there, he's not going to play this week. Once again, similar to Ty Chandler, but he's a great ad. Be careful. We've seen this before, haven't we? But I'm okay with going out and kind of chasing Juju. Let's chase Juju, ladies and gents. All right, get in the chat. Let me know what you guys need. Starts, sits, trades, waivers, reactions to week 5. Panic. If you're panicking, what's your record? How are you guys doing out there? How is it going? Are you 1-5? Are you 5-1? Or 4-1 or 1-4? I'm just skipping a week. Are you right in the middle? Are you? Oh, I am in one league where I'm 0-5. One league. I'm in one league where I'm 1-4. Every other league is good. Good. I did finally suffer my one loss in my undefeated league, and I lost to the worst team in the league. They got their first win. It was a great close matchup. I know you guys don't care. Sam Darnold was a bum, and DK Metcalf was a bum. And if they weren't, then I would have won. But all right, let me know how everything's going, guys. It's just remember, it is still so early in the season. It is so early in the season. Do not panic. Okay. Diego, thoughts on Brees Hall rest of the season? What's up, Diego? I think Brees Hall, and I said this last week in the buy low video, which by the way, for the most part, I smashed last week's buy low video. Usually don't toot my own horn, but for the wide receiver portion outside of Amari Cooper, smashed that video, and running backs were okay too. But Brees Hall was in that video, and one thing that I think people really need to pay attention to, if there is a buy low window on Brees Hall in your league, to go ahead and take advantage of that. Week 14 at Miami, week 15 at Jacksonville, week 17 Rams at home, week 17 at Buffalo. Guys, that is 4 bottom 5 run defenses in a row. The game before the fantasy playoffs and all 3 matchups of the fantasy playoffs for Brees Hall. I don't care what state this Jets organization is. I don't care if they re-sign Zach Wilson and start him. As long as Brees Hall is healthy, he's going to smash the fantasy playoffs. So I don't really care what happens in between now and then. I mean, I do, and you guys do, and you should, and we both should. But I think he will be good enough. Listen, I will say, in terms of, Robert Saleh being fired, I don't know if my views on the Jets changed that much. Nathaniel Hackett is still here, and for some reason, they're not going to fire Nathaniel Hackett. Whatever, but I don't know if this offense is going to change drastically. But, the last 2 game scripts have not really benefited Brees Hall. That doesn't mean that he should, be performing as he is currently performing. And I'm not panicking on Braylon Allen being involved. I mean, he was more involved in week 4 than he was this past week. I mean, he had 5 touches, 2 targets this past week, 8 touches, 1 target in week 4. And I mean, he's not really doing anything either. So I am all in on attempting to buy Brees Hall low. And especially if you're like a team that you feel good about your roster, you haven't suffered a lot of injuries, which is like the main point of this year's fantasy football. So if you haven't suffered injuries, you're in a good place. But yeah, if you feel like you are in a push for the playoffs, which it might be hard to say, even if you feel that way, it's still early. But if you feel good about your roster, your depth, Brees Hall is going to be a monster in the fantasy playoffs as long as he's healthy. So, and of course, like, it's still early, so we're looking at that schedule: Miami, Jacksonville, LA Rams, Buffalo, and that's really good right now. But sometimes bad defenses or run defenses do shape up as the season goes on. But right now, that's definitely something to pay attention to. D-Wave, what's up? Jason, what's going on? Should I start Ramondre or ETN? So I will say with ETN, like, we don't want to just like 100% say we can't start ETN because, Tank Bigsby had a huge game. This is still a committee backfield, and ETN still had 12 fantasy points last week. So, I don't really have qualms if you still want to start ETN. This is a good matchup against the Bears, and ETN still had 6 receptions for 43 receiving yards last week compared to Tank Bigsby's 1 reception, which, he had 28 total yards. And I don't remember if that was one of his touchdowns or not, but still, they're still going to have ETN involved. It's just like everyone going in the last week was like, we got to, start Bucky Irving. It's over for Rashad White. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? They have the same amount of carries, the same amount of yards. Like, this is a committee backfield. So, I think that this is going to be a frustrating situation. I still think Tank Bigsby should be rostered and can be started, but I do think we're going to get some fluctuation with this backfield. So if you're in a position where you feel like you want to start ETN, I still think he's a safe play. I just think the ceiling is very much so lowered, and yeah, we'll probably get more out of Bigsby as the weeks progress here. But in terms of Ramondre, I do like Ramondre Stevenson, but I'm a little bit hesitant on Ramondre at the same time because it is a home game here, but the Texans are top 10 against the running back position. And now we just don't really know what we're going to get with Drake May at quarterback. Maybe there's more turnovers. Like I listen, Jacoby Brissett wasn't turning over the football at like a super high rate. Believe it or not, at least for most of the season. Let's see. Just one pick. He had 3 fumbles against San Francisco. One of them was lost, but one pick in that game too. Outside of that, no turnovers. No turnovers last week. He just not doing a whole lot. So I'm going to expect some rookie growing pains out of Drake May, especially with this offensive line. So I do kind of worry about about Ramondre. I think I lean ETN here because he's playing the Bears and they're a bottom 10 unit against the run, where the Texans are a top 10 unit against the run, and you got a rookie quarterback in his first start. Smoking a cat. You need to, I know you had to make a new YouTube account, but you need to rename it. Make sure it's Smokey the Cat. But I guess that was your old one, which maybe that's going to prevent you. Make it Smokey the Cat. What's up, man? I have Laporta. Should I trade Kraft and Eckler in return? It really depends on your running back situation. Like, how bad are you hurting for Austin Eckler on your roster? I think it's a fair trade, but I also think Laporta is going to be fine. Kraft probably has a higher ceiling. We have seen 2 very good starts in a row for Tucker Kraft. Would I be surprised if at some point he kind of comes back to earth? No, because he's had 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games. The Cardinals 17th against the position. You know, he should be okay this week. Laporta against the Cowboys, they're 15th. Laporta had 9.3 points in his last start. Like, I still think Laporta is okay. Yeah, it just really depends how bad are you hurting for Eckler, and then you really got to like just understand you trade a guy like Laporta and trade Kraft and get Eckler. My bad, I read this wrong. I drank a lot of caffeine today, which like I think is having an adverse effect on me. Sorry. How bad do you need Eckler? It goes back to that question. I feel like with how bad tight ends have been, I feel like you can get more than Austin Eckler for Tucker Kraft. What's your running back situation? I mean, it's probably still fine. You're trading a waiver wire tight end for Eckler. Like, you know, I am high on Kraft, but he will come back to earth at some point. We kind of got to see like a floor without a touchdown. What does that look like for Tucker Kraft? Bryce, what's up, my guy? Do I trade B-Tom, Rico, Deontay Downs for MH Olave and Worthy? No, I would not do this trade. It's close here, though. It's close. But I think Olave takes a kick to the balls here with no Carr. And like Worthy is going to have a strong role in this offense. Like we did see the one deep ball and, you know, Mahomes almost had him. But I still think he's going to be boomer bust. Like he scored a touchdown and had 10 fantasy points because it was a rushing touchdown. 11.8. I mean, that's probably fine. Like 16.3 the week before. I mean, imagine he did catch that long pass. Maybe it's a little bit different here, but like they're still going to try and take those long shots to Worthy. I mean, I am very high on Marvin Harrison Jr., but how far apart are Brian Thomas Jr. and Marvin Harrison Jr.? I think Rico's really carving out a nice role with the Cowboys. Deontay is going to be very volatile, but still have good starts. And I'm in on Josh Downs. Like I think he's a great value. So I I don't think I do this trade, but it's definitely close. I will say if you like this trade, like I'm okay with it. I just think that I think I take the depth here. It's close. D-Wave, what is Kyron Williams worth trading for at wide receiver? I mean, you should be getting a very good player. Kyron is the RB4. He has at least one touchdown in every game this year. He has 14.4, excuse me, or more fantasy points in every game this year. So if you're going to trade Kyron, like I think you should be getting you have to be getting a top 10 wide receiver in return. There's no end in sight to Kyron Williams this year. I mean, the offense relies on him. He's going to get Las Vegas right out of the bye and probably score 2 touchdowns in that game. It's a little bit tough for Minnesota, Seattle. Seattle's kind of wishy-washy though, but they've had some injuries up front which might be healed by then. Miami, New England, Philly, it doesn't really matter who he's playing, you know. He's got the 15th most fantasy points of any player right now. So, yeah, I mean, you should be getting a top tier player at the wide receiver. I wouldn't trade him for anything outside of the top 10. If you can't get that, then just hold him. At least you can flex Kyron Williams if you truly don't need him on your team. But, I mean, what position are you in that you don't need Kyron Williams is the question. I mean, quite frankly, if I have a top 5 player, I'm just not. I mean, I know that can change by next week or the week after, but I'm just not trading them unless you just get an offer you can't refuse. Nino, any worry about B-Rob with them getting the other running backs more involved? No, I mean, this team is top 5 in rushing on the year. Let's see if that's changed. Most rushing yards by team, NFL. They're number 1. I think. Yeah, they're number 1. They're number 1 by I guess that includes, they're number 2. The Ravens are 1. I should have known that. Ravens have 1,056 total rushing yards. And the Commanders have 892. I think the next highest team is the Cardinals. I guess that's probably because Kyler's involved, but 782 for the Cardinals, 720 for the Niners. I wish this is an alphabetical order instead of just by like most rushing yards, which would be nice. But yeah, I should have known the Ravens are number 1. But yeah, the Commanders number 2 at 892. So the point being, they're going to deploy plenty of running backs, especially with B-Rob coming fresh off the injury. Like I'm not worried about it personally. I'm not. Now it is disappointing when a player scores 2 touchdowns and only has 13 fantasy points, but I'm not going to worry about it. Smokey, bottom of the chat. So you had Bijan, Chase Brown, Bucky, Braylon Allen, and Algier. I mean, I think it's fine as long as it's full PPR. But I also think having 2 reliable tight ends that kind of puts you in a position where you don't have to worry about tight end is pretty valuable. But I could see why you'd want to do the trade. I think you might be able to get more for Tucker Kraft. So I'm okay with it, but Eckler's ceiling is just not super high. Chase Brown, what's up? A-Chain or Jacobs in Dynasty for a contender? Short term, I prefer Jacobs. Long term, I still prefer A-Chain. But obviously, we kind of have a question mark around the Dolphins right now. Like they're perfectly fine, but are they going to be like one of these top tier offenses consistently? I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, Mike McDaniel looks a little worried on the sidelines these days. What's the state of Tua? I mean, I'm still an A-Chain fan. But I just don't know if we're going to get that same offense that we got last year again. So I prefer Jacob short term. I'll still take the younger player long term though. Johnny, I traded away Reed for DJ Moore and McBride. That's a good trade. Only have Andrews as my tight end. Wide receivers are Amon-Ra, Evans, and Smith. Yeah, I'm okay with this trade. I like Jaden Reed a lot. I do think his ceiling overall is maybe slightly higher than DJ Moore's, but I'm also a DJ Moore guy. So, yeah, I like this trade. DJ Moore's coming off of a 27.5 fantasy game. It's an interesting schedule the next couple of weeks. They're going to have Jacksonville at home. I think they're going to head into the bye week with a lot of confidence. I think that's a great matchup this here in week 6 for the Bears. Then they're at Washington, at Arizona. I think those at least have good game scripts. New England, Green Bay, good game scripts. Then they have a really bad stretch, which these are good game scripts, but this is such a tough stretch for the Bears. Weeks 12 through 17, they have Minnesota, the Lions, the Niners, Minnesota, the Lions, Seattle. So, I mean, those are at least good game scripts, and you do have some soft secondaries in there. But, I think this is a good trade getting McBride. I don't think that Jaden Reed and DJ Moore are that far apart, so I like it. Chase was down 2 points in League 2, had Olave, and he got you 3. Jeez, I'm sure you were sweating. Yeah, there are some close matchups determined by last night's game for sure. George, should I trade Mason for A-Chain? Got Barkley and Gibbs. No, I'm keeping Mason. Like, if I have Jordan Mason, I know there have been positive reports about Christian McCaffrey coming out and everything. And I do think there's a chance that C-Mac is back sooner rather than later. I also think there's a chance that he's not back till, late in the season. I don't think anyone really knows right now. So, if I own Mason, I'm probably just riding Mason until the wheels fall off here and C-Mac returns, because if C-Mac does return, then Mason's still a fantastic handcuff. And I still think he's going to have standalone value when Christian McCaffrey is back, trying to continue to kind of spell Christian McCaffrey. So I would hold Mason personally. Crazy to spend 30. No, 30 on Juju's fine. If you got 185, that's fine. No, it's not crazy. I mean, we don't want to chase the points from week 5. But yeah, if Juju's going to be this involved in the Chiefs offense, he played a good secondary against the Saints. So I'm okay with Juju. Yeah. CXL34 traded Kamara for CD. Now you got Chase, Amon-Ra, and CD. Got Henry and Kenneth. Good trade. Yeah, I mean, you're good either way here. If you keep Alvin Kamara, then you're starting Chase, Amon-Ra, Henry, Kamara, and flexing Kenneth. I mean, part of me is okay with just keeping those guys, but I'm also okay. I think maybe I prefer if you could have swapped Kenneth for CD, but either way, you got all studs across the board here. So I'm okay with it. Time will tell. But I will say, having Kamara and Henry, you would have the RB1 and the RB2. Will that stay this way this whole season? Well, we'll find out, but definitely had a good 1-2 punch there. But this trade's fine. Kamara could also take a hit here. Maybe the offense suffers with Carr hurt. So, Dallas Cowboys fan, hello. Monty plus Olave for Brees, or am I overpaying? It's okay. I mean, I do think some people kind of undervalue Montgomery to a degree. Like he's a top 15 running back, and he didn't even play last week. So, I'm relatively high on Monty. It's tough here because I think trading Olave kind of low here is not particularly a bad idea, but and I do like Brees, but this is close. It kind of depends on the roster here, so it's definitely close. But I think for a player that has the upside, or perceived upside of Breece Hall, it's probably worth it. But I just think it kind of depends on the roster and, what do you lose running back wise if you don't have Monty? And like, um, I I don't want to undermine Chris Olave's value. Like I do think he could be more valuable with the backup quarterback there for the Saints. Or maybe not more valuable, but more valuable in comparison to Shaheed, where the situation doesn't hurt Olave as much as it hurts Shaheed, but maybe the offense also takes a hit here. But all of that is speculating. And then we still don't know how long Carr is going to be out. Maybe it's just 2 games. Maybe it's 3 or 4. Maybe it's 5. Maybe it's 1 game. We don't know. So I think I'm okay with this trade because I like trading for Breece Hall right now. But you have to understand, Monty gives you immediate value right now that you can trust, even if the ceiling's not crazy high. And Olave is probably still okay. So depends on the roster for me. D-Wave sitting at 2-3 could be much worse. Nino's got 2 undefeated leagues out of your 6. Very nice. Chase asks Kirko Chains or Goff. Hold on 1 second, guys. Let's take a look at matchups. I want to say, so Goff has the Cowboys. They're 19th against quarterbacks. I want to say I like Kirko more this week. He gets the Panthers. Yeah, I'm going Kirko. I'm not expecting him to have 34 fantasy points or anything crazy, but I'm going Kirko. The Panthers have really struggled overall. I mean, it's a home game for the Panthers, but like they had the one good game against the Raiders. They played okay against the Bengals. Those might be the 2 of the worst. They probably are 2 of the worst defenses in the league easily. I don't think that's a stretch. And the Panthers are right next there with them. So, yeah, I'll go Kirko here. Goff's always fine, but Goff's not going to have, his last start. What do you have? 30 points. He's not going to do that again. Tommy, what's up, bro? Lost my league matchup by 0.44. No. Would you drop Wicks for Watson long term? Need one flex, Coleman, Leggett, Wicks. I mean, here's the thing, guys, and I talk about this in the start sit video for wide receivers. Like, yeah, it was the most disappointing player to me last week was Dontavion Wicks in fantasy football, but he's going to have plenty of opportunities here. He's just going to be a very volatile. I would rather have Wicks than Watson because at least Wicks is healthy right now. I'd rather have Wicks. I don't know what we're going to get out of Watson. I'm truly worried about Christian Watson. So, one flex this week. I don't like Coleman as much this week as I did last week because we're probably going to have Khalil Shakir back. But even, if we do get Shakir back, this is, either way, it's not a good matchup against the Jets. That's an away game for the Bills. Josh Allen's banged up. Coleman had 1 catch last week. 1 catch. So if that's what he's going to produce as a wide receiver 1 off of 5 targets in a competitive game script against the Texans, I know it was a touchdown catch, but yeah, I just don't feel great about him. So I don't feel good about Leggett. I was very hesitant about starting Leggett last week. I'm gonna go Wicks. I start Wicks here. Give me Wicks against the Cardinals. I mean, you could go Coleman, but yeah, like I talk about in the wide receiver video, like I'm not just out on Wicks because this last week was a bust. And everything was there for Wicks to play well against the Rams. Like the game script was there. They needed to throw the football again. Maybe he is just kind of like this boomer bust guy, but I think his ceiling is more favorable for your lineup than the floor or ceiling of Leggett and Coleman right now. What's your favorite defense this week? Eagles will be the most popular. And it is interesting to me because in the defense video, I do have the Eagles on the list, but the very first thing that I said when I go over that matchup and starting the Eagles is that I still don't trust the Eagles at all. Like, this defense is still god awful, and the secondary is the worst in the league, at least in fantasy points allowed. I know they didn't play last week, so that bumped them back a bit, but like, they're literally the defense 28 in fantasy football. But yeah, I like them at home against, the um, Browns. Then they get the Giants. No disrespect. Danny Dimes playing okay. They're at Cincy. That's probably not good. Then they get Jacksonville. They've been playing better. And so, like, they got some opportunities in the next couple of weeks. The Rams in week 12. Maybe Puka and Cup are healthy by then. I don't know. I like the Eagles, but they're not my favorite. They're a good stream because they're pretty lowly rostered at 23%, but I think there's better opportunities out there. Um, I still like the Jets at Buffalo. The Niners are probably okay. They still mustered up 12 fantasy points last week. You know, like, I think those two teams are still hard to get away from, but I love the Steelers at the Raiders. We don't know who's going to play quarterback. Maybe we'll see Aiden O'Connell and Minshew, but those teams are all highly rostered. So in terms of teams that aren't highly rostered, and I don't think we can start I know the Giants have been a popular name, but I don't think we can start them against Cincy or Philly in the next 2 weeks. So unfortunately, I don't think they're part of the mix here. But I do like the Bears. They're 60% rostered. They get Jacksonville at home. They're the defense 3 right now. I do like the Packers. They're the defense 2. They get the Cardinals at home. But once again, both those offenses aren't like awful. I love the Broncos this week. Like, the Broncos are 74% rostered. This was a team I told you guys to go after, after week 4. Like, this is going to be a must-start defense moving forward, and they've bumped up to 74% rostered. But I love the Broncos getting the Chargers this week. So, yeah, some people are looking at the Colts facing Will Levis. I don't trust this Colts defense. I don't. I know they had okay stat lines against Chicago and Pittsburgh. I don't trust this Colts. This Colts defense ranks bottom 5 against every position except for running backs. So I don't trust them. Obviously, the Vikings are on bye week. They're only 72% rostered. If someone drops the Vikings in your league and you play in a league with defensive special teams, pick up the Vikings. They're going to be a team you can start against anyone this year. Anyone. Just sit back and relax. So I do like the Bills okay. On the road against the Jets. They're still the defense 8. So I think the Bills are okay too. So maybe I missed one. But that's my breakdown. I think the Chargers are good too. They got dropped by a lot of people going into the bye. I like the Chargers against the Broncos too. But Bo Nix looking a little shaky bakey out there. Ghost Hunter, what's up, man? Need a replacement for Moody. What are your top 3 streaming kickers? So Pete's kickers video will come out tomorrow, so make sure you guys check that out. But off the top of my head, let me see who's kind of lowly rostered. Do we look at us breaking down defenses? Now we're breaking down kickers. And Pete will probably have a more extensive breakdown for you guys tomorrow. But let me flip through. See if there's anyone really lowly rostered that I like. Chris Boswell is still only rostered in 51% of leagues. He's the kicker 5. He hasn't really seen that high ceiling that he had in week 1, but he's been solid every week. So I do like him. I think Matt Gay is kind of interesting on the road going up against Tennessee. He had 10 points last week. I do like Will Lutz. Will Lutz is 3% rostered for the Broncos, and he's had double digits 3 out of 5 weeks on the season. Gets a good defensive game against the Chargers. He's the kicker 8 right now. I really like Will Lutz. I do like Green Bay's kicker. I know he's a little shaky in week 4, but bounced back last week with a perfect game. He gets Arizona. I like Braden Naverson as well. So I would say Lutz or Naverson are probably good options. I like Blake Groupie of the Group A of the Saints as well. So it definitely depends on who's available for you. Tommy, would you roll with Braylon Allen this week or drop Leggett for Dar and Ogun Bawale? I rewatched the running back video, start sit, and there's a part where I mispronounced his name that I was supposed to cut, and I accidentally left it in. And then I just refer to him as one of the Texans running backs. These things happen as the season goes on. I mean, I don't know if Dari is going to see multiple touches because Nico's out. He's been involved in the pass game. Oh, Mixon's out, and maybe that's what you're saying. Yeah, I do think Braylon Allen is startable. It's a great matchup against the Bills. So if you want to keep your roster as is, I do think you can start Braylon Allen. But yeah, I think Dare is a good pickup here. Yeah, you can drop Leggett. Leggett might pop again, but yeah, I mean, I would feel better if this is your running back situation. I would just feel better in general going into the week with Dare and Braylon Allen. What's up, Cats? Shiesty, what wide receiver should I trade Evans for? I mean, I probably just hold Mike Evans. I know I'm boring, but like he's the wide receiver 6. What are you looking to trade for? You know, if you're going to trade the wide receiver 6, then you need to like you're not going to get a top 5 wide receiver for him. So you need to like get pieces. So like, can you get DJ Moore and Michael Pittman? Can you get DK Metcalf and Zay Flowers? Like you got to, get 2 guys in return who are kind of in a lower tier, but can play at that same high tier as Evans. So, can you get Terry McLaurin and enter wide receiver, it's just tough. Can you get Terry and Jameson Williams? Like, and really that's like in a situation, do you need that depth or not? So we got to Smokies earlier. Higgins for Walker or Jacobs. I'm okay with that. I like Higgins. Higgins was a big buy low for me going into week 5. I would rather get Kenneth Walker here. I think, we saw Kenneth Walker get involved in the passing game last week, which was super, super encouraging. If we can kind of get that combination of what he did against the Lions, in combination with what he did this past week, it is a short week this week against the Niners, so I don't know exactly what we're going to see, but yeah, Kenneth Walker. I mean, I like Jacobs. He's another guy I talked about in the buy low week this past week. So I would rather get Walker, but I also like Higgins. But it's a okay trade. Ford and Pacheco for Dobbins and Brooks and half PPR. I would do this trade, and like I think if you're in a winning position, like you still try to hold Pacheco for the most part. But yeah, in half PPR, I'd probably do this. I'm a Jerome Ford fan. Jerome Ford, one of my most drafted running backs in Underdog going into the season. You guys know that, right? But it does seem as if he's losing value because Deshaun Watson sucks and they won't make a quarterback change. And we do have Nick Chubb practicing again. And I really thought, like, and maybe this is true. Maybe Nick Chubb is still not in a major hurry to play. He might be practicing, but is he going to play anytime soon? Time will tell. But the indication would be if he's practicing, he's probably going to try and play. But yeah, it does seem as if Ford's losing value. So in half PPR, I think this is a good trade, but also bear in mind, like, we don't know when Brooks is going to play. We don't. And I've said the same thing about Brooks with Nick Chubb. Like, when it comes to Jonathan Brooks, like, whenever his practice window does open, which is going to be 21 days once it opens, so that's 3 weeks, and then he's not just going to roll in and get 20 plus touches. And we've never seen Jonathan Brooks playing an NFL game before. So there's no telling what we're going to get out of Jonathan Brooks. And Chuba Hubbard is killing it. Chuba Hubbard, another guy I talked a lot about in the offseason, right? And like they're not just gonna replace Chuba Hubbard in the snap of a finger. Like they're gonna ease Jonathan Brooks in. Now, does it turn into a 1-2 punch? Maybe, but as long as Chuba is healthy, he's gonna get touches. I mean, he's the RB10 in fantasy. Not that coaches are looking at if he's a top 10 running back in fantasy or not, but he's had 10 plus touches and 4 or more receptions in every game since week 2, you know? He's had 3 touchdowns in 4 of the last games. So, yeah, they're just not gonna take Chuba out of this equation. So I will say that much. But Brooks v. Pacheco is fair, and I think Dobbins has more value right now. So I do like this trade, but I also think if you're like in a winning position and you own Pacheco, he's going to be back. But that's another situation now. As long as Kareem Hunt stays healthy, I think they're going to try and keep Pacheco healthy once he returns and probably roll with like a 1-2 punch. So if you like the trade, I'm good with it. All right, 1 and 4. I need help. What move should I make? Allen, St. Brown, Debo, Evans, Waddle, Moore, JT, Monty, starting 3 wide receivers and 2 flex. I mean, this is a good team. It's just been a rough start to the season. You've had some guys here like Debo, Evans, like Debo's banged up. He's had some stinkers like last week. Evans has had some stinkers. Josh Allen has not been worth where he was drafted. I mean, his ceiling's been high. His floor has been super low. JT's banged up. I mean, you can't really trade any running backs. Hopefully, you have some running backs on your bench, but this is the problem. Like, you don't want to trade Debo. You're selling him low. You don't want to trade Waddle. He's in like hellfire right now. I mean, your wide receivers are good. Like what, you're starting St. Brown, Debo, Evans, or St. Brown, Evans, DJ Moore every week, flexing whoever's left. Do you really only have Monty and JT here? Or are they like in the flex? Even in a 10 team, I feel like this is a good roster. You've just had bad luck to start the year. I mean, you can always try and tier up. You just got to, package. Like, I would not trade St. Brown. I'm not really trading Mike Evans. So I think you can look at Debo, DJ Moore. But I mean, DJ Moore, I still think is going to be very good on the season. But it's a good, if you want to sell him at high value, right now is a good time. So, like, you could probably get a very good wide receiver in return for Debo and DJ Moore, but I don't quite know that it's worth it. So maybe it depends on what running backs you got left here. JJ, league mate offered me Jacobs for Pitts and Pollard. Is this a good move? Got Laporta and Kincaid, as well as Gibbs, Brees, and ETN. I mean, I don't really think you need to do this. Like, the cherry on top is Kyle Pitts, but you don't need Kyle Pitts. You got Laporta and Kincaid. I don't think you need to do this trade. And like, I do like Jacobs, and I think he's tied to a better offense than Pollard. But Pollard and Jacobs are not that far apart. Jacobs is the RB19. Tony P is RB25, and he's, we got 4 weeks in Pollard, 5 weeks in Jacobs. So I'll say no for now. Shiesty, my team is Lamar, Derek, Kyron, Evans, Pickens, J-Mo Goddard, Addison, Shaheed. What should I do? You got the QB1 and the RB1. You got the RB4. You got the wide receiver 6. You got Goddard, who's in a great spot, even with Brown and Smith coming back. Then you got J-Mo, Pickens, Addison, and Shaheed as a flex. Well, I guess one of them is your wide receiver 2. Now, Shaheed might lose value. Addison's kind of boomer bust. J-Mo's boomer bust. But, I mean, are you really in a spot? Oh, this was in reference to the Mike Evans trade. I would not trade Mike Evans. If anything, I'd be looking to like package J-Mo and Shaheed and try and get a more consistent player. But this is a great roster. a great roster. So I know Shaheed. I would try and package Shaheed and JMO, and I still like both. Or maybe package Addison and Shaheed. Keep JMO. Take that boomer bust in the flex. But, I'm not looking to trade Lamar, Derek, Kyron, or Evans here. And like Goddard, you can rely on at tight end. It's a good roster. I know that you need to do anything crazy here. Dummy. Mike Evans and Mason or McLaurin and Hall. I mean, this is basically a wash. Hall, you got this unknown of like, oh, is the ceiling lower now? Mason, you got the unknown of is Christian McCaffrey ever coming back or coming back next week? McLaurin Evans is like, probably still prefer Evans, but it's a wash. It really comes down to personal preference. I think if you're like looking ahead towards the end of the season, I like Breece Hall here because of his playoff strength of schedule. But other than that, like I probably right now prefer Evans and Mason. Kyoto built Wilson or Lloyd as a stash. Excuse me. It's still Emmanuel Wilson for me. Start 3, Myers, Ridley, Tracy, White, Ford. So I will start Jacoby Myers this week. He was okay last week, actually. Now, I mean, I guess with the issue is we don't know who's going to play quarterback. The Steelers aren't a great matchup. They're 13th against wide receivers. Maybe I backtrack here. I mean, I'd probably go Tyrone Tracy here, especially if we don't, if we see Singletary's not playing, then I'm going to roll Tracy again. Let's see. Yeah, he gets the Bengals. I mean, he might even be able to play Tyrone Tracy even if Singletary plays. I'd probably still start Rashad White. I'd probably go White, Tracy, and Ridley. I know Ridley is going to be hard to trust, but it's just such a good matchup. This Colts defense just can't defend. They're 25th against wide receivers, so I'm willing to risk Ridley this week. I think Myers still provides a safe floor if you don't like any of those guys, though. And Dak or Love, I mean, this is really going to be a coin flip every week. I kind of prefer Love still. I know last week was disappointing and he was in a great spot. But I think I still prefer Love. But Dak is always a good start. He does have a good matchup against the Lions. But Jordan Love has a good matchup against the Cardinals. So it's very close. Polk or DeMario. I mean, it's tough to say because we're getting a quarterback change and every quarterback has, different preferences, but I think I still prefer DeMario. Mooney, Tolbert, or Randall all season Mooney, but I like all three of these guys. And if you can roster all three, they're all worth rostering, but I think I still lean Mooney, but they're all great and they could all easily outscore each other. And the most consistent player on the season has been Rondell Robinson. All right, we got this one already. King Cards, trading Ford and Chubby. I can get Shakir and Leggett or Dell and Dobbs. What pairing do you like best for the Chubster? I mean, I don't really like any of these pairings. I think I kind of prefer to keep Ford and Chubb. Like, I know they're tied to the Browns and we don't like this offense, but you're kind of just securing a backfield either way here. I mean, I guess I prefer Shakir and Leggett. Like, Shakir's been very consistent when he's played. He's had double digits every game. Leggett, at least you still get like some perceived upside. I don't know what we're going to get out of this Panthers offense outside of Chuba, but he's not expected to miss time. He's a little banged up. Like, Dell has just been such a big question mark. Maybe he has a big game. With Nico Collins out, or assuming Nico Collins is out, maybe he doesn't. Dobbs, I think, is a big question mark too. So, yeah, I think I'd personally prefer to keep Ford and Chubb, but maybe you don't need the running back help here, you know? So if that's the case, I guess I prefer Shakir and Leggett, but it's close. Connor, full PPR trades, Chubb and Sutton or Cup and Eckler. I prefer the Cup and Eckler side. What's up, Joe? Ghost Hunter, pick 2 and Superflex. Caleb, Kyler, or Goof. I like Caleb this week. I think Caleb's a great start this week. Man, I don't know what our ceiling is going to be with Caleb on a weekly basis, but I think 19 plus points against Jacksonville is basically a lock. I like Kyler a lot this week. I would probably go Kyler for the upside. You know, Goff is always fine, but outside of his week 4 performance, he's had 15 or less fantasy points in every game. So we'll sit the goofer here. J Dubs, what's up? How are you, bro? No, I got 2 offers right now. Can you tell me what you like better? Devonta, Sermon, and McConkey for Fergie, Shakir, and Lockett. Offer 2 is Devontae and Adams for Terry and Kraft. Huh. I mean, what do you feel about just holding Devontae Adams? Like, I feel like if I own Adams, I'm kind of holding him to see what happens, unless you need to win like this week. And truthfully, nobody needs to win this week. We're still only in week 6, but I mean, if you haven't won a game or you only have 1 or 2 wins, I understand. So I don't really like the first trade. I mean, I feel like, I guess, Ladd, McConkey, and Lockett are pretty similar in terms of their up and down ceilings and floors. So I guess that's fair. I'd rather have Shakir than Sermon. Like, Sermon's still a short-term play. And I do like Ferguson a lot. This is tough. No, I think it kind of depends on your roster. I will say Devontae and Andrews for Terry and Kraft is fine. But it's also, like, I'd rather have Kraft than Andrews, but I still think that's pretty much a wash. No, if you have time, let me know your roster. We'll come back to it. That's some big implications here. Glai, what's up? Would you start Downs or Rondell? I like both this week. I do. Let's look at matchups. Downs gets the Titans. The Titans didn't even play last week, and they're allowing the fewest fantasy points to wide receivers. I guess Robinson gets the Bengal. I'll go Robinson. Just give me Robinson. I do like Downs a lot, though. Now, the Titans, if I'm not mistaken, have been pretty bad against slot wide receivers. So I do think Downs is a good start. I do. But yeah, I think I'll go. Robinson's been so good. He's been so good. I think he's just super consistent. Now, Downs has only played 2 games, or did he play a? Did he play a 3rd game in there too? Yeah, he had the low 5.2 against Chicago in his first game back, but then everything's been good since. So, I mean, both should be rostered. I was really surprised when I put together Saturday's video or last minute waiver wire video, and Downs was at like 49% rostered going up against the Jags last week and coming off of a 22.2 fantasy performance. He's at 54%. Robinson made a little bit more sense because he played Thursday night. But yeah, Robinson's up to 71% rostered. He should be rostered in more formats. Gets Cincy and Philly the next 2 weeks, and then Washington, Carolina in weeks 9 and 10 with Pittsburgh in between. So, I mean, it's very close here. And, this caliber player can always outscore one another. So, we got to bear that in mind too. But I'll lean Robinson here. Yeah, I don't trust the Colts at all. This could be like Will Levis against the Falcons last year. Like he just has this. He's coming off the bye. Just has this one week where he slings it all over the place with his mayo hands. X, what's good, bro? Who should I start? Kamara, Chuba, B-Rob, Pollard. I mean, all are great options, but I'm probably going Kamara and Chuba with Brian Robinson's matchup. Like I still think Brian Robinson's a good start. I think we get points in that game, but yeah, I'll go Kamara and Chuba. Trying to pair Stevenson plus a wide receiver for a better running back. You got Neighbors, Cup, Smith, Higgins, Deontay, B. Tom, Amari, McConkey, Kamara, Stevenson, Hunt, Moss. Any suggestions? 3 wide receiver PPR draft. I mean, you got pretty good wide receivers here. It's just tough because like Deontay's coming off an awful game. Amari, I read today that Amari has 45% of Amari Cooper's targets this year have been off target. Like he's had an incredible amount of targets. I keep talking about it every week, but the throws just suck butt because Deshaun Watson sucks butt. So it's just tough because I think those are like the two. Like I want to keep Neighbors, Cup, Smith, Higgins, and Brian Thomas. So I mean, can you finagle a trade here that includes Deontay or Amari with Stevenson? I just don't quite know who you'll get back. I know your wide receivers aren't fully healthy, but for a 3 wide receiver team, this is still a good wide receiver. I guess you're trying to get a running back. I mean, I know Moss is hurt, but I also don't hate your running back room. The question is going to be, does Stevenson benefit from Drake May at quarterback, or is it? That's what's tough here. This week he gets the Texans. Not a great start. I mean, can you send Stevenson? Try and ship Stevenson and Deontay around and see what you can get back. Because some people are still high on Deontay, just calling it this one down game. And I don't dislike Deontay per se, but we'll see. All right. 24K Lightning, thank you for the super chat. Remember, guys, if you want something answered right away, you can send a super. I will try to get through every question. I'm going to stream for at least another hour, if not longer. Long-term play question: should I drop Justice Hill to pick up Algier? I mean, it's fair either way. I think the problem is they're both super strong handcuffs, and I think like what we could potentially see this week, for example, is like this could be the first game of the year where Tyler Algier scores, and that's going to change everyone's perception. But like Roshan Johnson just had 2 touchdowns against the Panthers last week, and DeAndre Swift still had 20 fantasy points, So like it's just the worst run defense in the league. So I'll put it this way. I think if something were to happen to Bijan, God forbid, then Algier is a clear-cut RB1. And I do like Hill, and he was one of my most drafted handcuffs going into the season. And they both, in a sense, have standalone value, but I feel like the better standalone value is still Justice Hill. But like I even thought, like I liked Justice Hill going in the last week as a potential guy that you could plug in if you were in a bad enough position. Because I talked about the game script being positive, and that's what we need for Justice Hill. In games where he has 6 receptions this year, he has double-digit fantasy performances. In any game he has under 6 receptions, he is 7.4 or less fantasy points. So I thought in week 5, and that thesis was true, except for the Justice Hill part, because obviously we got a shootout there. It's the Ravens and Bengals, but yeah, I it's really a coin flip, man. I will say that if you need if you're going for a long-term play, I guess it's Algier. Um, I guess it's Algier. But if you need more immediate help, it's Hill. But yeah, if you're just going for a long-term play, Algier has the better handcuff value. Does that make sense? Like Hill's still good long-term, but I also don't think Derrick Henry's going to get hurt this year. I don't know if he's capable of getting hurt. So he's seen a lot of volume though. Plus, I will say one thing too, is that Keaton Mitchell is still not close to returning, but there is a chance he returns at some point this year, which could impact that backfield. But his recovery, I mean, he got hurt in an ACL tear in week 15 last year, so we'll find out. All right, let me know if you need me to expand on that question or if that was helpful. All right, Smokey with the super chat. Chase Brown and T for Aaron Jones and Hill have neighbors MH Godwin and Keon. No, I want the Chase Brown and T Higgins side. Now, like I think Hill is, and I talked about like Hill was fine last week, 12 fantasy points. I think Tua is going to play this year. I do, but I prefer the Chase Brown and Higgins side. So if that's the side that you're giving away, keep it. If that's the side you're getting, then I'm okay with the trade. Now, I will say Aaron Jones, I think I'd be perceiving him differently if he didn't get hurt in this past game, because Aaron Jones has been great on the season until the injury. So I will say if you're like 4-0, you're feeling great, whatever, or I guess 5-0, then like Hill and Jones are still fine here. But they're kind of like, you can't really start them right now. Jones is hurt. Hill's in a bad situation. But both those guys could have more value as the season goes on. All right, Smokey, 24K. If you guys need anything else, let me know. Thank you guys for the super chats. Shane, what's up, broski? Also had Moody. What about Siebert? Yeah, I mean, I think that he's fine. That is a good name to mention. This is one player that I was looking at earlier in one of my kicker leagues. This is a Commanders kicker. He's 22% rostered. He's the kicker 7, and he other didn't play week 1. Did they have a different kicker? I don't remember. But 0 fantasy points week 1 either way. So he's the kicker 7, and he's had 9 or more fantasy points with the ceiling of 22 points. So yeah, he's a really good ad. He's a really good ad. All right, guys, I know I'm way behind trying to get caught up here. Appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for all the fantasy questions. Make sure you guys hit the like, and let's keep rolling. If you hit the like, you get good luck this week. Never had it so good. Picked up the Bills defense by watching the Jets play. They play Tennessee next week too. Texans, Chargers, and Eagles or Packers are available. I like the Bills. They've been solid. They're awful against the run, but they are good against the pass. So I do like them a lot. I do. I do like the Packers. I mean, the Packers are still number 2 in fantasy scoring, though. So they feel like a team that can give up points, give up yards, but still come away with takeaways and total fantasy points. So we'll see how long they can sustain that. But I think that they're a good option too. So I would say the Bills are a little bit more of a floor. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe the Packers are more of a floor and the Bills are upside, but you do have good options there. Honestly, for me though, I either stick with the Bills or I go the Packers, but basically talked about all these teams in the defense video other than the Texans because the Drake May news hadn't come out yet. Have Q available? Yeah, if Q is available, I'm not going to call him the top waiver priority. Maybe the top priority at kicker, but don't be like, even if there's a great kicker available, if there's skill position players that you need to chase them first. But yeah, Q's the kicker for. Yeah, he's a great pickup. If he's available, you go get him. Steven, Daniels, or Kyler. I mean, Kyler does have the better matchup, but I'm starting Kyler, or I'm sorry, I'm starting Daniels until further notice. He's must start easily. And I take that back. The the Ravens are 28th against quarterbacks. My bad. The Packers are 12th. Yeah, I go Daniels easy. Should I trade Brees and Myers for Adams and Higgins? It really depends on the roster. What's your running back room going to look like if you lose Brees? Is this? I don't know that I do this, but it's definitely tempting. But I don't know that I lose Brees for this. Sell McLaurin for Diggs. Nah, I'll keep McLaurin. Diggs might see an uptick with Nico out, but I'm keeping McLaurin. It's still close. Diggs has been great with or without Nico. I guess if you prefer Diggs, I'm okay with it, but it's basically a wash. Mooney and Dell for Godwin. I mean, I do like this trade. Like I'm high on Mooney, but he still has been slightly inconsistent on the year. Now this offense is just getting its footing down, but I do like Mooney quite a bit. But I feel like I like Godwin more, and I feel like Godwin's just a bit safer. So, I mean, Mooney's the wide receiver 19 or 16. And Dell's been Dell might see an uptick with Nico out, but Dell's I don't know what happened with Dell this year so far. But yeah, I prefer Godwin because I like consistency. So if you're good with it, I'm good with that. Would you trade Kamara, Neighbors, Amari for Bijan, Jacobs, DK, and Diggs? I mean, it's kind of tough to evaluate Kamara right now because he's the RB2, but what's he going to like? How is he affected by the quarterback change? So you're going to get Bijan and Jacobs over Kamara, DK and Diggs over Neighbors and Amari. Nah, I don't do this. I mean, it's close. It maybe depends on the roster. Like how, like if have you been just smacked in the face with injuries? Like maybe. But I think I prefer just to keep Kamara and Neighbors, and I don't really prefer to keep Amari, but he's still okay. Has that boomer bust potential. Ghost Hunter, Green Bay or Denver? I mean, I want Denver right now. Like I know Green Bay's been really good too. I mean, they've scored more fantasy points. They're both great starts, but I just have that feeling about Denver. Like this defense has something about them. But Green Bay's been very good too. I'm not taking anything away from them, but Denver's actually been a better real life defense, where Green Bay hasn't even been that good defensively. They're just getting a lot of turnovers. Like they gave up 370 total yards last week. They only gave up 13 points, but they gave up 31 points in week 4. They just had a forced fumble and a pick and 374 total yards. So, I like Green Bay. It's hard to dispute them. They're the number 2 defense in fantasy. They're the most takeover or turnovers in the league, but I like Denver a lot too. So it's close there. It's basically a coin flip. Shane, what's up? In Dynasty, Tank Dell and Mike Wilson for Brian Robinson Jr. Garrett Wilson? Wait. Mike Wilson. It's got to be Garrett Wilson, too. It's got to be Garrett Wilson. Mike Evans? Mike Williams? Let me know the trade again, Shane. All right, we hit this one. I'll check. I saw that you sent me a trade. I'll check it when I have time, Shane. Real Gopher, drop a like and subscribe for more daily content. Appreciate that. Thanks for helping out in the chat, too. Adrian, the Vikings defense, but they are on bye. Do I drop Tracy Sermon or the Vikings? Don't drop the Vikings defense. They're the defense one. Just don't drop them. I know. I know. I get it. I'm in a league right now where I only have 4 bench spots. I'm number 1 in the league. It's a super flex league. I'm not dropping the Vikings defense. Someone will scoop. I'm not doing it. I'll suffer. I'm going to drop Jerome Ford, I think. I think I have Ford and Charbonnet. I'm just going to drop them. The nice thing is next week, although it kind of feels like it hurts this week, but next week you have a free player to drop. You only need 1 defense. So it's like when a player you don't really care about that you do care about kind of, but they're just kind of like a depth piece gets injured, like David Njoku. It's like, okay, like I get a free waiver basically. So, Tracy Sermon, I'd rather drop Sermon because I think he's a shorter term play. Like once JT's back, JT's back. Tracy could see touches whether Singletary's healthy or not. That's at least my guess. So, yeah, don't drop the Vikings defense. Would you trade Dobbins, Deontay, Waddle for McLaurin and Higgins? Yeah. Depends on the roster. But I prefer McLaurin and Higgins, yeah. All right, Tommy, need an honest opinion. Would you be comfortable rolling Mason and Allen or Mason and Dare? I need this win. Well, I don't think you have a choice but to be comfortable with either situation here. So, if you want to hold, I think the question really comes down to, are you comfortable holding Mooney or not, or Leggett or not? If you want to keep Leggett, then you roll Braylon Allen. If you don't care about Leggett, then you plug in Dare. But like, we're still kind of taking a shot in the dark, starting Dare or Allen here. Didn't you have like forced traded Jacobs? A-Chain's on bye? Am I thinking of this team right? What happened? All right, Trippy, thank you for the super chat. I'm currently 1-4, last place in my league, but first in scoring. Well, I will say, before reading anything else, if you are first in scoring and you're 1-4, then you just purely have had bad luck to start the year, and there's nothing that you can do about that. It happens. I traded for Terry and Shaheed for J-Mo and Olave. I traded for Terry and Shaheed, so you traded away J-Mo and Olave. This is, I hate to say it, but this trade is just so linear. Like, I'd rather have Terry than Olave, but like you're still looking at wide receiver 1 on their respective team. I'd rather have Terry right now with what happened to Carr, but it's still close. Then J-Mo versus Shaheed. I mean, I prefer J-Mo with what happened to Carr, but you just got this boomer bust wide receiver 2 on either team here, so it's basically a wash either way. Now, if Carr was healthy, it's very close here. I think if Carr is healthy, I prefer Terry and Shaheed because Shaheed's been more consistent than J-Mo. But they're both they're just that volatile, like boomer bust type wide receiver. So it's going to depend on your trade. I'm sorry. It's going to depend on your roster. I'm sorry. So if you have time, let me know your roster and we'll keep breaking that one down. Tommy, say you have that's right, A-Chain Kyron on buy. Okay. I think you just kind of you bite the bullet and I would keep Leggett and I'd just bite the bullet. I'd start Braylon Allen in a good matchup. Would you drop Emmanuel Wilson for Rojo, Chandler, Wright, Corum, Juju, or Tolbert? Is Rojo Roshan? Yeah, Roshan Johnson. Like, who was the running back on the Bucks? That was Rojo. Uh, Ronald Jones. Sorry, that's who I was imagining in my mind. But yeah, Roshan Johnson's the new Rojo. I go Rojo then Chandler. Oh, but Juju, what do you need more, a running back or wide receiver? I go Juju, Tolbert. Part of me wants to say Tolbert over Juju. People are going to go after both. I put the wide receivers in first, then go Rojo, Chandler, Wright, Corum. That would be my order. I would rather have almost any of these players over Emmanuel Wilson, though. I still think Wilson's a good handcuff. Starting St. Brown, Harrison, Brees, and Barkley. Should I flex Cooper or Brian Robinson? Well, you are in a great spot, my friend. I would personally flex Brian Robinson. Who should I drop to pick up Doodle? Najee Moss or Rome? Let me ask you guys who own Najee Harris a serious question. Are you ever going to start Najee with any confidence? He just faced the Cowboys, who are bottom 3 against the run. Like they've been good against the running back position. I'm sorry, they're bottom 4. They have been good against the running back position the last 2 weeks. And they're still giving up the 28th most fantasy points to the running back position. They were down DeMarcus Lawrence and down Micah Parsons. And Monty still gave you a whopping 9 points or whatever. Like, I understand that it's hard to drop a guy like Najee. But when are we going to start Najee and be like, this is the week? Because it should have been last week. And part of the problem is this offense as a whole. But, I mean, in the same sense, Rome Odunze, like, when are you really going to start Rome Odunze and trust him? Like, he's had good matchups. He's just super volatile. This offense is kind of all over the place. They do play Jacksonville this week, so if Rome's going to have another big game, it should be this week. I'd probably drop Rome, but I mean, really, like Najee Harris owners, speak up. I need to hear from you. Godwin or Reed rest of season? I mean, Godwin's a safer player, but I like both a lot. I mean, these guys are super close. I need to get a new mic. Trade Mason, Eckler, Tolbert for Gibbs. Don't really need the depth. I mean, I do like this trade. I like Tolbert. I think Eckler's a great. Like, Eckler's going to get you 10 points. Mason's great, but if you're getting Gibbs, like, you don't need Mason per se. Like, you probably got Tolbert off the waivers. You probably maybe didn't even draft Eckler. Maybe you did. If you truly don't need the depth, I mean, of course, I'd prefer to see the roster, but I'm okay with that trade because I like Gibbs that much. Access full PPR, hold or sell Deontay. I mean, without even looking at the roster, I I probably hold Deontay because what do you have? 3 points last week? Like, what are you going to sell Deontay? Like, if there's somebody who gives you a fair offer, sure. I mean, I think Deontay will probably be fine, but okay, he had 5.9 fantasy points. Sorry. But I just don't like selling a player coming off of a bad performance because, you know, what are you going to get for him? You know, you're going to get pennies, and I don't want you to end up with pennies. So, Cat says Kraft is a top 4 tight end rest of the season. I mean, I hope so. But the problem is, like, sometimes with tight ends, like, if they don't score those touchdowns, they just become like a Kate Otten, I mean, my math is probably going to be wrong here, but let's say Kraft doesn't have the touchdown in week 4. It's still a good start, but he has about 10, 11 fantasy points. You take away the 2 touchdowns last week, probably has 12 fantasy points if we're including the yardage total. So that's not bad. And I just worry. I just worry sometimes. And I'm high on Kraft for sure. But I mean, he's looked great. He's looked very good. So don't get me wrong here, but I just sometimes worry because you still have a lot of volatility and like low volume when it comes to a lot of tight ends out there. So we'll find out. Smokey got a trade offer. Give up Browns and Higgins. Okay, so we went over this one. I think I keep Chase Brown and Higgins still. We need a poll. We don't have a poll up. Smokey, are you here? Let's do a poll. Which side would you rather have rest of season? Hit the like. Hit the like button, guys. What are you waiting for? All right, Chase Brown and Higgins, Tyreek, and Aaron Jones. All right, there's your poll. Should I stream Caleb again if healthy? I do think Caleb Williams. Or wait, should I stream Caleb or Richardson if he's healthy? I still think Richardson is startable this week, but I would rather play Caleb Williams. It's just a better matchup, and I think Caleb Williams has a safer floor. I mean, Richardson probably still has a ceiling, but it's a better matchup for Caleb. Yeah, I'll just go Caleb. It's kind of my top like waiver quarterback for the week. Let's go Caleb. Adrian, should I pick up the Eagles or Texans defense? I mean, both these defenses have been bad on the season. I'll just go with the Texans here, but I do like the upside of the Eagles. I think the Texans are more of a floor. Eagles are more upside, but hold more risk. Taylor Gang. Thoughts on Tyrone Tracy? Yeah, he looked great with the ball in his hands. Didn't even score a touchdown and, had a fantastic day. So looked very, very different than Devin Singletary. So 129 yards, 7.17 yards per carry, 7.17. Did I say that right? Off of 18 touches, 14 fantasy points, didn't score a touchdown, had 1 catch. So yeah. I'm pretty big on Tracy. I think he's a guy who could end up getting touches even with Singletary there, back healthy. So if he's a player you got off the waivers, I would hold on to him. Very different than like owning a Cam Makers or I'm not down on Trey Sermon. Like, he's a good fill-in for now, but I think once JT's back, JT's back. I think Tracy, my opinion is that he could get touches even with the healthy Singletary. Let me get caught up here. Francis, I had Collins and Rice. Oh, bummer. Man, you were riding high first couple weeks of the season, too. You probably would have had 2 top 5 wide receivers. After the injuries, how should I navigate my thin wide receiver room? I have Ayuk, Downs, Leggett, and Wicks. I mean, it could be worse than this. This probably doesn't feel great, but it really depends who's out there, who's available. Like, I would look for Jalen Tolbert. I think it's a great pickup. It really just depends on who's available. So if you're able to check and if you're able to check and let me know, we can break it down a bit. But like Mooney, if he's out there, I do think Jordan Whittington is worth stashing. Michael Wilson's okay. Ray McLeod is okay. I also noticed in like more than one video this past week, I called Jordan Whittington Jordan Whittingham. And I don't know why. Like, I've been talking about Whittington since like July, maybe. So if anyone, and no one roasted me in the comments for it, but I do know his name. Yeah, it just depends on who's available. So Whittington is probably a worthy stash, though. Would you offer Goof and Ingram for Connor and Henry? I don't want Henry. I mean, full PPR Superflex, Guy lost Carr, and his other quarterbacks are Stroud and Deshaun. Do you not need Goof? We're only referring to Jared Goff as Goof. I mean, what help does Hunter Henry bring your team? Is he going to be better Drake May at quarterback? Maybe. Yeah, I mean, Ingram's been no good, so. But I think when Ingram's healthy, he'll be fine. If you want Connor enough, sure, but like don't undervalue even a quarterback like Goff in Superflex. Like even if he's only getting 15-ish points a week, like there's nothing wrong with that. So, I mean, there is, but like he's still a starting quarterback. So, I feel like if I remember your team correctly, though, you have like 4 starting quarterbacks. So, is this your squad? Henry, Mixon, Mostert, Gibbs, Akers, Komet, Kyler, Caleb, Darnold. Yeah, I mean, like you don't need the goof on this squad. So, I just like can you target? I mean, I get that you're targeting this team because they have issues at quarterback. So it's probably a win-win situation. But like, can you get a different tight end? Like what is I just don't feel great about Hunter Henry. I love that we're all just calling him goof. I mean, the trade's fine, but I just don't get excited about Hunter Henry. Like you're probably still just going to start Cole Kmet, but maybe it's worth the quote unquote risk because maybe Hunter Henry is better with Drake May at quarterback. Would you get Bigsby or Tracy? I go Bigsby then Tracy, but both are good. I like Bigsby a hair more though. So if you hit the like Joe Dirt, well, bless you. Good luck. We're gonna make Joe Dirt hats or something at the end of the season for the channel. Rank for this week: Buffalo, Indy, Houston, Atlanta. I mean, I would go Buffalo or Houston. I would say Houston's more of a floor. Buffalo gives you more upside. I'm not trusting Indy, and I'm not trusting Atlanta. No, thank you. Question for all very interested in the general consensus. Would you rather have Kraft or Laporta the rest of the season? I mean, I think due to recency bias, most people are going to end up saying Kraft, but Laporta's fine. Now, I think you can probably you can trade Kraft high, but you can also probably trade Laporta and still get pretty good value here. So, um, I would rather if you have both, I'd rather hold Kraft and see what you can get for Laporta. Unless you just get a stupid offer for Kraft. But once again, I think that there's a strong chance that, and I'm not low on Kraft. I like him a lot, but there is a chance that if we get a couple games out of Kraft with no touchdown, that he starts to put up some mediocre numbers. But then we have this ceiling that's emerged that's very high, and we haven't seen that ceiling, out of Laporta this season, for example. So, it's close, and then I guess it kind of depends. Do you want to trade one of the two, or are you just asking in general? So close for sure. Start Pitts, Laporta, or Kincaid. Kind of like Pitts. Yeah, I mean, here's the problem. You got these guys these guys you're going to make the wrong choice at some point. I would be trying to trade one of these players to help alleviate that. And it could even cost you your matchup, and it's so close here. I had a team last week that had Pitts and Likely, and I needed a win. I dropped both and started Freiermuth, and Freiermuth was good. If I had started Pitts or Likely, I would have won that matchup. So, and I lost by less than a point. The backwards lateral crap that counted as a fumble for Freiermuth lost me that matchup. That's fantasy football for you. All right. Let's take a look at matchups though. Laporta gets the Cowboys 15th against the position. Kincaid gets the Jets 2nd against the position. Kyle Pitts gets the Panthers or 28th. Just give me Pitts. Pitts, Laporta, Kincaid. That's my ranking. Trade McBride for Ramondre. I have Kraft. I mean, George, how bad do you need Ramondre? I don't think I do this trade. McBride is still a top 5 tight end, which right now holds a lot of value. I mean, I know he's actually the tight end 10, but I think people view him as a top 5 tight end. He missed week 4. So in terms of tight ends people want, he's probably up there with Kittle, Kraft. I think Kelsey's building a lot of steam, Bowers. So yeah, I would just hold both stud tight ends here, unless you're just decimated at running back. But even then, I think you can potentially trade McBride for a better running back than Ramondre. He meant Mike. I don't even remember this question, but I do remember it. You're probably right. Let me see if I can find it. I can't find it. So we can revisit it if necessary. Thoughts on Deontay Johnson the rest of the season? I mean, I think Deontay will be okay. I think he'll be okay, but we do have to look back at the fact that, both starts or both good games for Deontay on the season are against very bad defenses. I mean, the Raiders and the Bengals might be the 2 worst defenses in the league. So The fact that Andy Dalton played well against them and that Deontay Johnson had 21 plus points against them, we might need to get worried about that. They get Atlanta, Washington, Denver, the Saints, the Giants, a bye week, then the Chiefs. This could be a tough stretch. So, but then they get Tampa Bay, Philly, Dallas, Arizona, Tampa Bay. I mean, that's a little bit better. So, I mean, I still think Deontay is worth rostering, but we're going to find out a lot about this Panthers team over the next couple of weeks for sure. So, we'll see. What's up, Mr. Bakes a lot? As someone who's not a Najee Harris owner, I'm happy with my backfield outside of some Mixon owners injuries. Fair enough. Joe, I got Najee. Man, I want to drop him, but there's nobody out there. I'm stuck starting him due to injuries and buys. I mean, I guess that is the only, bright side of owning Najee is when there's nothing else, at least he's going to get you 9, 8, 10 points. But I thought he was going to finally have a good week last week. And I will say Najee is definitely worth starting this week. He's playing the Raiders. They are not good defensively, and they've been very bad against the run, giving up the 25th most fantasy points to running backs. So, yeah, I don't know any Najee, but I'm done. Trippy, so you're in a 10-team keeper league. Love, Henry, Kyron, JT Brown, Nico, Deontay Wilson, Terry, Shaheed, Wicks, Kittle. And hold on. What was your trade question? Because your team is stacked. Sorry, my chat is messing up. All right. So you got Terry and Shaheed. You traded away J Monala. I think that's fine. Either way, I think it's fine. What's your record? Even in a 10-teamer, I feel like you got to be up there. I don't know. Jordan Love's been hurt. Those wide receivers have been a bit volatile in the season. Kelsey, Hunt, and Jones are on bye week. I have Allen, but need another running back to start. Have Atwell and Leggett. I can trade for what starting running back? Waivers are but. Who is on waivers? You might be surprised. But you're not going to get anything for Atwell and Leggett. You're just not. Tutu's on bye. He's been okay, but Kupp's going to be back at some point. Leggett is coming off an awful game. So, if there's a super wide receiver needy team, maybe you can trade them and get something. But you're going to be looking at maybe Jerome Ford, maybe Zach Charbonnet. You're not going to get a whole lot for that. I would do that trade for either of those players for the immediate week. Maybe you can get Alexander Madison. He's still a starter. That's the tier of running back you're looking at, in my opinion. But let me know who's on waivers for you. Yeah, that's the problem with that trade is it is a little tough to evaluate with Aaron Jones. Thoughts on Jalen Tolbert, rest of season, decent flex? Yeah, Tommy. I like Tolbert a lot, but it's also going to be slightly dependent on the health of Brandon Cooks. But I also think there's a potential when Cooks comes back, if he does come back, it's a little of a scary situation with that, knee injury and infection. It could, if Cooks comes back, that impacts Tolbert, but I really like Tolbert rest of the season. Like him a lot. I mean, and Tolbert was a player that was getting a lot of good coach speak and praise in the offseason too. So like, and when CeeDee Lamb was missing the entire offseason, Jalen Tolbert was somebody who was practicing on a regular basis throughout the offseason with Dak Prescott and kind of filling that role of CeeDee Lamb, so to speak. So they have good chemistry. Trippy says he's 1-4. Dang. Oh, that's right. You already told me that. I'm sorry. It's literally in the other message. Your team is so stacked. That's just, I mean, having the most points scored and being 1-4 is like it. It's just a wave of bad luck. I've been there before. It's a wave of bad luck, but don't feel like you need to change your team. Like it's not your team. It's just the way the fantasy works sometimes. And just remember, it's a long season. You can go to the playoffs with 9 losses. Like you just never know how your league's going to shake out and the standings are going to shake out. So you have 4 losses. Don't panic. 9 losses might be a stretch, but I've seen it happen. You can go to the playoffs with more losses than you think. Francis, you're welcome. Thank you for subscribing. Welcome to the catch, fan. Tommy, stash Leggett or Whittington? I'd rather stash Whittington, honestly. Tied to a better, I mean, the Rams have been kind of bad, but still tied to a better system and a better quarterback. So Pete, interesting story about Pete. Pete's parents went to the London game. They're Vikings fans, but they're also like, I think like part of Pete's family are like Jets fans. So they went to the game and Pete's parents were in an elevator with Johnny Munt. So Johnny Munt continues to be a running gag on the channel as well. Oh, what was the trade? Oh, I mean, if you can get Pitts, that's good. I'd maybe get Hill with Carr being hurt, but do you feel? I mean, I can you get Pitts? I don't know if you can. Do you like Hill? If you like Henry more than Hill, I'm not going to talk you out of it. Do rookie quarterbacks like tight ends? Most of them do. All right, so here's your team, Kelsey. But who's on waivers for you? Wow, running backs are thin for you. Who's on waivers? Yeah, I doubt he wants to give up Pitts. Lost by 1. Would have won if I played Caleb instead of Darnold. Yeah, Darnold lost me a matchup this week too. It happens. Axis trade question. I get Chase Brown and Higgins. He gets Monty and Myers. That's a good trade. Full PPR, Mixon, Monty, Najee, DK, Deontay, Jettis, Dell, B. Tom Myers. I mean, I like this trade for you, but I do think I still believe Monty's the most valuable player here. But yeah, I like the upside of Chase Brown, and I'd way rather have Higgins than Myers. But Myers is going to be good. He's going to be a wide receiver 1 on his team, but so that would leave you. I mean, I do kind of feel like with your running backs here, the consistency of Monty's kind of important, though. Because you have on a regular basis JJ, DK, all right, and B Tom, like you got other guys like Deontay and Dell and Myers. So I don't really know that you need Higgins. I feel like Monty's actually more valuable to this team. It's not a bad trade per se. but you don't really need Higgins. Like, if anything, you need another running back. Like, Mixon's out this week, Najee's butt, and we have to play Monty Najee this week. So I think I actually hold. Mr. Wumbo. I like your profile pic. Do you think Kirk and Warren for JSN and PPR is fair? JSN side owns Najee. I'm trying to get 2-for-1 trades to make some room in my roster. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I do believe in Kirk personally, but he is seeing lesser value with the emergence of Brian Thomas Jr. And I do like JSN. Like, I think he holds similar value. Maybe isn't as consistent, but similar-ish value. So it's close. But if you like it, I mean, I do think it's a fair trade because I think, Kirk's been solid the past couple weeks, and JSN is good, but he has that fluctuation. It's tough. He still has two other very good wide receivers on that team, regardless of how you feel about pop, lock, and drop it. But I mean, I think it's fair, and always trust your gut. If you don't like Kirk, that's fine. So Kirk is the wide receiver 41 for context, and JSN is the wide receiver 40. So, I mean, I would think about that too. Like, they're only one spot apart in scoring. So you're basically giving up, it's basically a wash between Kirk and JSN, and then you're just giving up Warren for nothing. But put up duds the first two games, and last game only had one catch for like 3/4. I mean, the one thing with Christian Kirk, I mean, he's definitely acting more as like he has the Christian Kirk role, because really look at last year, Ridley had the role that B-Tom has now. B-Tom is just playing better in that role. But the one thing I will say about Christian Kirk is that this team is going to consistently be in positions where they need to throw the football because their defense is so bad. And like the Seahawks defense has been a little wishy-washy, but yeah, I get what you're saying though. Should I trade Monty for Mooney? No. We've got to pump the brakes on just selling Monty like for scrap. I mean, Mooney's not scraps, but like Monty should really be viewed as a pretty high tier player. Like, I mean, he didn't play last week, so the numbers are a little skewed, But like Gibbs and Monty without playing last week are the RB 13 and 12. Like, would you sell Gibbs for Mooney? No. And Monty has scored more fantasy points on the season than Gibbs has. Not by a whole lot, but still has scored more. So I'll say no. And I mean, I like Mooney, but then at wide receiver. But how many, what's your flex situation? Because, I mean, if you can flex Monty every week, then you have a great flex every week. You know what I mean? Wide receivers are Neighbors, London Moore, DK Pittman. Do I need to make any changes? No. You have a great wide receiver room. Start Neighbors, start London. That last flex is close, and I still think any of these guys can outscore each other, but Neighbors and London are the must starts. I'll start DK. I still think DK's must start, and DJ Moore is close, and I do like Pittman, but I don't know. DJ Moore plays the Jags, though. I mean, that is close. Metcalf gets the Niners on a short week. I mean, if anyone's going to score a touchdown on Thursday Night Football, it's Metcalf. That's a home game for the Hawks. It's close there. But you got great options. You don't need to make any changes. Danny Dorito. I like that. I was trying to figure out, is that something from It's Always Sunny, or is it just Danny DeVito hanging out in a Dorito? What's Cup's value? I mean, Cup's value is as low as ever, but there's rumors that Cup's going to be back in week 7. So Puka's expected to miss another month. maybe 3 weeks, maybe 5. Who knows? Yeah, Cup's not guaranteed to return in week 7, but he might return soon. He should be, in theory, back before Puka. Hard to say. Waivers are White, Madison, Johnson, Sanders, Bigsby, Tracy. So, like, yeah, you got options here. It could be way worse. Tracy's a good pickup. Bigsby's a great pickup. Madison will get you points. Roshan Johnson is startable. He gets the Jags. He was startable last week, had 2 touchdowns. Zamir White, Sanders, but you got good options here. You got good options, Kelsey. I'd rank these guys Bigsby, Tracy, Roshan due to matchup Madison. You got good options. Monty is part of a 1-2 punch that both get the ball extensively, not selling either him or Gibbs. I can absolutely afford to, 100%. Got offered Cup and Shakir for Wilson and Deontay. Nah. I just hold. I would hold. Now, I'm assuming I read this as you get Cup and Shakir. If that's the case, I hold. It's kind of close. It is kind of close. I can see why you're debating it, but I think I hold. Millie Mills, what's up, bro? Pick 2 for flex. Mooney, Ramondre, Reed, Dowdle. In PPR, I gravitate towards starting Mooney and Reed. I probably am starting Reed. I know it was a lower ceiling last week, but I mean, he gets the Cardinals. He's a strong start this week. The Cardinals are better than they're 15th against wide receivers, but they're not great. And yeah, I probably throw Mooney against the Panthers out here. But like Ramondre and Dowdle are still pretty good starts. But they don't have fantastic matchups. So yeah, give me Reed and Mooney. Jay Smells, what's up? Should I trade Metcalf for Connor and Mooney? No. Metcalf is still in that. I mean, I know he had a bad game, but he's still up there. I would not do this trade. It's a good offer from them because I mean Connor's still super solid and Mooney's going to be good, but Mooney's coming off of this game where it's like it's just hard to pass on him, you know. But yeah, I would keep Metcalf. How about Cup for Hall? You're trading Cup and getting Hall. I'm okay with that, but when Cup's back, I do think Cup's going to be good still. But I'm okay with this. Flex situation isn't great, and he's usually in there. Current wide receivers, running backs, half PPR. So Hall, Mason, Monty, JT Ford. I mean, that is a great running back room. Wide receiver Collins, Rice, who's getting dropped. Ayuk, Downs, Leggett, Wicks. I mean, you are kind of in a tough spot here for the week with Collins being hurt. But like, if I'm you, and this is half PPR, I'm starting Hall, Mason, Monty. JT's hurt. I would start. Okay, it depends. Is it single or I mean, I'm used to double flex, but if it's single flex, I'm starting 3 running backs. If it's double flex, most weeks I'm starting 4 running backs here and half PPR for sure. And then, you know, it's okay to be weak at wide receiver, especially in half PPR when you have the depth at running back here. So I wouldn't panic too much here. You know, on a good week, you're starting Hall, Mason, Monty, or Taylor, and then Collins and Ayuk. This is still a very good roster, but like for this week, go Hall, Mason, Monty, Ayuk, and Downs, and then if you have another flex, and half PPR, it's probably Ford, but yeah, I wouldn't be panicking too much here. Only other guy I could really try to get on this team for Kirk and Warren would maybe be Waddle. Nah, I'd rather have Kirk than Waddle. Need to drop one to pick up a running back. Drop A.R. Andrews, Mostert, Hunt, Kirk, Algier. You need a running back to start this week. I prefer to drop Mostert. He's on bye week. I know, like, A-Chain's hurt, like, but then you got Jalen Wright involved, and A-Chain might be back, week 7. So I would just drop Mostert. Don't drop Kirk, and if you have Bijan, keep Algier, and don't drop Hunt. You could drop Andrews, but like Andrews likely. Who knows? You're picking your poison each week. I don't think I'm dropping Anthony Richardson yet. I don't think I'm giving up on him fully. So I go after these running backs in this order: Bigsby, Tracy, Roschon. You could drop one of the 2 tight ends. Just don't be surprised if they have a good game. But I wouldn't drop Richardson yet, and I prefer to drop Mostert personally. Would you get Bigsby or Tyrone Tracy? I get Bigsby first, then Tyrone, but your guess is as good as mine. All right, sorry, the chat's doing the thing where it repeats for me. Drop Allen for Bigsby. I mean, I feel like if you're in a position where you need Bigsby, you might as well hold Allen. He's got a good matchup this week against the Bills. So I think I'd drop Leggett or Atwell. I mean, I still think Atwell has some value. So if you want to hold him, that's fine. And I think Leggett probably has some value. But if you want Bigsby, I think Bigsby has more value than both of them. So I'd rather drop one of them. All right, Inceptivus. Should I trade Ramondre and Adams for Walker? You got Gibbs, Mason, Jacobs, Dobbins, CD, MH, Higgins, Smith. Yeah, I do this trade. I mean, I'm not like out on I'm not out on Adams. And it looks the strongest rumor is that he's going to the Jets. Like there's things in motion there. And before you guys freak out, if you own Garrett Wilson, I think this helps Garrett Wilson. But I would do this trade. Your wide receivers and running backs are fine. You'll have Gibbs, Mason, Jacobs, Dobbins, Walker, CD, MH, Higgins, Smith. Yeah. You're in good shape. Jay Smell says he needs a running back. What's your roster? I'm at the point in the night where I'm getting your guys' rosters confused. Bryce, the full roster. It's okay though. JD, Hall, H.A. Mason, Rico, Allen, Bucky, Garrett Wilson, Deontay, Godwin, B. Tom, Wicks, Juju Downs, Neighbors, go up. Too many people on bench. You sure I don't do B. Tom, Rico, Deontay, Downs for MH, Alave, Worthy? I'm just really high on Brian Thomas Jr. And I think Rico, Hall, A-Chain, Mason, Rico, like your running backs are not that great. You got issues with running backs. So I kind of want you to keep Rico. No, my position is you still hold. I mean, it's close. If you want to do it, I don't think it kills you, but I would hold. Well, my flex, Ramondre Stevenson so far, would you do different or stay full PPR? You got Moss, Hopkins, Mitchell, Madison. Nah, I just keep Stevenson in. If Moss is healthy, If Moss is healthy, you could go Moss, but he's not far off from Stevenson. It's still they both still face a top 15 run defense. What is Marvin Harrison Jr.'s value? Could he be a top 15? Yeah. He still is a top 15 wide receiver. He is the wide receiver 13. Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. would be fine. Be very good. Should I try and ask for Puka instead of Worthy? I mean, you could. It doesn't really change my opinion too much, though. Maybe a good long-term play. Should I pick up Rondell or Mooney? For JMO, I mean, Robinson's more of a floor play. Mooney and JMO are kind of similar where they're kind of boom or bust, but Mooney's maybe a little bit safer. I mean, I still like JMO. He just doesn't have great volume. These are all good options, but all these guys are going to have weeks where they outscore each other. Yeah, what we got here, Jace Mills? We got White, Hall, Stroud, Love, Deontay, Neighbors, B. Tom, McBride, Pitts, Chase Brown, Brooks, Dell, Metcalf. So, yeah, I mean, you do need running back help, but let's see. You're starting Strouder, Love, Hall, White, Neighbors, B. Tom, flexing Dell. You could go Chase Brown over White, and you got McBride and Pitts. I mean, can you package Deontay and Pitts coming off a good game and see if you can get a running back for that? I don't want to sell Metcalf, B. Tom, or Neighbors. And I want to keep McBride, and like you're not going to get anything back for quarterbacks. And I want to keep Chase Brown and Breece Hall. So can you trade White, some combination of White, Deontay, even Dell? I mean, honestly, if it sweetens the deal, you could throw Jonathan Brooks in there too. But yeah, I'm not selling DK Metcalf when he's your wide receiver 3 essentially here. You don't need anything but maybe running back help. But honestly, like, yeah, I don't know what your record is, but you can get through. Like, it's okay if running back is weak for you. It doesn't mean that you have to have a stud running back. You're good everywhere else. You got 2 good quarterbacks. You got 2 good tight ends. You got 3 stud wide receivers. You at least got names in Deontay and Dell. Breece Hall will be better. And he at least got points and White. And Chase Brown is like I mean, if you go, let's say Jordan Love, Breece Hall, White, McBride, Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., and Metcalf, you have a good starting lineup. Jets should have traded Saul out of the Raiders for defense. I mean, that's probably not far off. I talked about this earlier in the stream. I don't think anything really changes for the Jets, unfortunately. But Daniel Hackett's still the calling the plays. Like, unless they change that, I just no. All right, guys, I'm gonna start wrapping up in the next couple minutes here. So make sure if you guys have anything that you get it in last minute. Start sits, running backs and wide receivers are out for the week. Every position, every player. Quarterbacks, tight ends will drop tomorrow morning, and Pete's kickers will come out tomorrow. Then we'll roll into the rest of the content throughout the week. Dowdle or B Tom? I'm going B Tom. Until further notice. You also have Pollard. Yeah, you're fine, man. Your roster is good. I will say B Tom has a tough matchup this week, but I'm just starting him until further notice. Naughty Otter, what's up? Guy in my league really needs quarterback. He has Hall. I want to send him a package including one of my quarterbacks. Would you trade away Kyler or Baker? Woo! Oh, Baker's my boy. Baker's my boy. Ooh, that one's tough. Baker's been the better quarterback, though. I think Kyler might be more attractive in a deal. I mean, Kyler's the QB7. Baker's what, the QB3? Yeah. And Baker has such a good stretch at the end of the season. He does have a couple tough matchups, but I don't even know how tough some of these matchups are. I mean, he's at the Saints, Ravens at home, Falcons at home, at the Chiefs, San Francisco at home, and then a bye week. Then he's at the Giants, at the Panthers, Vegas, Chargers, Cowboys, Panthers in the fantasy playoffs, fantasy championship. Kyler Murray. Let's see. Green Bay Chargers, Dolphins, Bears, Jets. Bye week. Same bye week as Baker's. Seahawks, Vikings, Seahawks. Patriots, Panthers, Rams. He does get Patriots, Panthers, Rams to end the season. It's a coin flip. It's very close. I mean, I think either way, I think they might be more willing to trade. Like, I don't even know they're gonna do this trade, but I think they'll be more willing to trade for Kyler. If you can get Breece Hall for Kyler and you still have Baker and like you can pick up, Caleb Williams or Geno Smith, or just have someone else here that's a viable option if Baker does get hurt or on his bye week, then I would still do this. I mean, I do this trade either way. I'll say that. I would trade either of these guys for Breece Hall. So tough to say which one. It's close. What do you think about D-Hop this week? He's fine. I mean, I'm still not going to go out of my way to start DeAndre Hopkins, but if you're in a situation where you have to start him, he is a flexible player because, yes, he's playing the Colts. Hit the like, y'all. Remember that it's a goof, not goff. Also, it's Joe Dirt, not Goddard, and Doodle, not Dowdle. This is true here at the Catch. What about Ford, Mostert, Pittman, plus Kirk? I mean, here's the problem is like Pittman and Kirk aren't that far off from Diggs. I mean, Pittman's wide receiver 48. Kirk's the wide receiver 41, and Diggs is going to be higher, but he's been more consistent. He's a wide receiver 15. I mean, if you like this trade, I'm okay with it. But like I still think that Pittman and Kirk are going to be fine on the season. Like I like the Dobbins over Ford and Mostert, but I guess rankings wise, like it is fair, but like Pittman and Kirk got off to a slow start and Diggs did not. So it's okay if you feel good about it. But I still don't think Pittman or Kirk are going to be bad. Trippy, Shakir, or Deontay rest of season. I mean, I will say I'll take the consistency of Shakir right now, but Deontay has more upside. So more upside for Deontay, safer floor for Shakir. Have a good night, Ghost Hunter. All right, guys, if you need anything, drop a comment on any of the videos throughout the week. We have must start defenses out. We have our must add waiver wire players. If you guys want to check that out before entering your final waivers tonight, we have start sits for running backs and wide receivers out. Every single player, every single matchup. Start sits for quarterbacks, tight ends will drop in the morning, and our kickers video will come out tomorrow evening. I should be streaming again tomorrow night. My daughter is sick, so everything's up in the air, but we'll still have all of our regular content coming out throughout the week, so don't be worried. But I got a ton of YouTube comments to get to. If you guys want to add to those, feel free to, and make sure you guys check out the content for the week. Eddie got Walker, Mason, Taylor, and Chuba. Only starting 2. They're competing for the flex spots with B. Tom and Mooney. Got MH and DJ. Yeah, I mean, this is a good problem. I said it very early in the season, like weeks 1 and 2. People are like, "Oh, I got all these guys. Who should I trade?" And it's like, don't trade them. Things are going to change. Things are going to change. If you have good depth, hold on to that depth. Will, Kyler, Garrett, Debo, DJ Moore, Worthy, Hopkins, Leggett, Ricky, Bijan Kumar. Someone sent me a trade. Godwin and Adams for Bijan. That leaves you with Kamara, Stevenson. I mean, you're kind of Wilson, Debo, DJ Moore, Worthy. It's a fair trade if you want to do the trade, but that leaves you with Kamara and kind of those low tier running backs in Stevenson, Moss, and Madison. And then you're just kind of loaded up at wide receiver. So if you can do the trade and then flip like Debo and somebody else that you feel is of lesser value at wide receiver, or keep that star-studded wide receiver depth and, flip, let's say, Debo and Zach Moss for another running back that you feel good about, then that's okay. But just understand, if you lose Bijan's still going to be good on the season. So Mateo, Allen, Monty, Ramondre, AJ, Ayuk, Kittle, Deontay, Niners D. Going to pick up a kicker, Ridley, Myers, Downs. You could go Myers or Downs over Deontay if you want, but other than that, this looks good. And yeah, those final wide receivers are very, very close. So, all right, guys, hit the like, do all the YouTube stuff, check out the content for this week, and that's going to do it for tonight. So thank you guys so much for the fantasy questions. Over 2 hours, great stream. Love you guys, man. Love this community. Love the Catch fam. Everyone have a great rest of your Tuesday night and a great Wednesday, and good luck on the waiver wires. We will all talk tomorrow, and that'll do it for tonight. So with that, I'll say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening, and remember, you saw it here on the Catch and